But also, remember when he goes, thank you, and then Venom goes, welcome. And then there's another scene where Venom's like, oh, it was a very sensible thing to do. And then there's another scene where Venom goes, sure, I'm not unreasonable.
Or when they're in the car with her, and he says, did you ever apologize?
Yeah, so he gets him to apologize.
This might be the last time.
Venom, he has very few, probably 20 lines in the movie. And at first he's all belligerent because he's trying to act cool. He's trying to, hey, I'm this tough alien.
He's trying to not be a loser this time.
Yeah, and then
that's
he's like,
your first impression.
Yeah, and he's like, wait, I'm not a loser here. I don't have to act anymore. And so they can go on talks about how he's going to bite people's arms and legs and faces off so they're turds in the wind. If he did that at his home planet, they'd be like, shut up, Venom.
So I will say this movie was brilliantly non-violent.
Yeah, I mean, just the head biting, no blood.
Yeah, I saw somebody call it a terrible action movie, and I think that person missed the point.
Yeah.
No, exactly. But so again, I took my 10-year-old son to see it in the theater because we're pretty I'm pretty liberal with what my kids can watch. And, we have a pretty established rules of what we say and what we do as people. But when we watch things, and some things I'll screen first and whatnot. So, but then my daughter, was addicted to the trailer.
Oh,
and
really?
so addicted to it. She was calling me a turd in the wind for months. And so when we got picked up the DVD, she was all excited about watching it. So I had to think for a second. Before you let your 8-year-old daughter watch Venom, you're like, well, let's just think this through. But there was implied violence, but the on-screen violence, like I said, there was no blood. The head-biting thing was always in shadows. They did a really good job of making this movie feel like a violent movie without actually having violence on screen.
And they always question it afterwards. Did you just eat a head? It's a sensational thing. It's not an okay thing.
And don't hurt cops. No more killing
There's
cops.
good people out there.
I love the let's bite all their heads
difference?
off and pile of heads and pile of bodies.
When you were talking about your kids watching it, the guy who did all the visual effects on this movie, he was talking about how he loved working on it. There's some very long. There's some very it's a very long interview. This is a guy who's worked on Interstellar, Dark Knight, massive movies with Christopher Nolan, and he said that he's like, I knew we had a potential hit on our hands when we put on the crew screenings and I took my kids to see it. At the end of the movie, I asked them what they thought. Normally, if they don't like a film, they just tell me how good my visual effects are because they're basically trying to say, Dad, we're trying to make you feel better about it. And he goes, and they just loved it. They had great big grins on their faces. My daughter, she's a teenager. She said, I'm going to get all my friends to go see this. He's like, this hasn't happened too often with the films that I've made. And it's not that I haven't worked on, obviously I've worked on some really good films, but this appeals to a different kind of audience. You could see it was going to take off and it will find an audience. This is a guy that's worked on Dark Knight and Interstellar, which I think is one of the most beautiful visual effects films I've seen in years. And he's saying this movie found an audience with teenagers and 10-year-olds and people like us.
I would say that this movie, as well as Aquaman, which I'm pretty in love with right now, followed the Richard Donner school of making a superhero movie where you take the material seriously, but you don't take yourself very seriously.
I think The Atlantic said it really well, and I love their movie reviews. They write some really interesting sentences, but
they're great writers.
They said it's the audience at Mystery Science Theater 3000 lobbing popcorn at the screen and begging the movie to hurry along to the goofy stuff. That's this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. You just want more Venom. You just want more.
You want him being
stuff.
funny and the two of them interacting.
I just like that Venom takes things really personally too, and he gets offended. Parasite.
Yeah, apologize.
All right, so how about this? Let's take a quick break. Let's watch the goofy scenes in Venom, and when we come back, we'll talk more Venom. Welcome back to Movies, Films, and Flicks. And I was just asked a quick question by a man walking down the street. Don't ask me how I got that question, but it may have something to do with me scouting locations for car washes. The question was by a man who I have never met, and he told me that if I gave him $50,000, I could make double in 3 months with this car wash because he has a patented system of soap and conditioner that uses itself like a wax, so you don't have to pay for the wax on the car, thus saving customers money while maximizing our inventory because we're not paying for wax. And this also allows people to move faster because they're not waxing, so we can churn more people out quickly.
Did he say that the soap and the conditioner worked in a symbiotic relationship.
He did. Wait, was that Venom I was talking to? Was that Barf? Wait, maybe. Did Barf leave me and take somebody else?
It definitely wasn't Dalek, because Dalek would have shot you.
Yeah.
Shot you.
So I think, hey, Barf, are you still there? Barf left me, and he went on to someone else who almost sold me a car wash. He's good.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah, but I think it's a good business model for anybody who's interested. But Megan had a quick question for me here, and she wanted to know if Deadpool and Logan paved the way for a movie like this. What do you think, Adam?
I want to say yes, but also this movie didn't go for the hard R.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it didn't, like, I think Logan and Deadpool were both like, we're going to make the most rated R movie we can because it speaks to the character, but I think it attracted a certain audience. So like I work with youth, right? Like that's a big part of my job was working with youth in the church. And when the first Deadpool came out, every teenage guy, whether they were a comic fan or not, was like, we're going to go see this movie because it's rated R. Like that was the draw.
It was like 300.
It's just like 300. This is finally like, it's going to go there. And all it was just a comic movie with more swearing and more blood, which is fine. And it's hilarious. Actually, my daughter today, in talking about Venom, she put her head down and was very like, Dad, movies that have swearing are more funny.
Oh,
that was her like heartfelt confession. So I don't know if they paved the way for this movie. Maybe they could have paved the way for like an R-rated version of Venom, but that's not what we got. We got a much more fun, attainable movie.
Is this like a Guardians style?
Yeah, I think just maybe in general, because the tone of humor in Deadpool is just weirder.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's definitely some random stuff in there that you wouldn't put in a mainstream movie, but it worked there. And then this one, I mean, I never thought Turd in the Wind would work the way it does.
Well, I think those lines work because you have this big, larger-than-life monster that isn't making idle threats. He's gonna bite your face off. Like that's not a like. So adding the Turd in the Wind thing is just like. At that moment, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm going to say what I want because I'm going to legit back this up.
Well, and there's that balance between this loser monster who will actually kill you and then Tom Hardy's awesome reactions to everything.
Huh?
He has the most high-pitched screams.
Yeah.
He randomly, do not open the door. Huh?
Oh.
No.
The bathtub scream.
Oh, when he screams in the bathtub, that made me so happy.
When Tom Hardy chooses to take the elevator instead of jump out the window.
Oh my gosh, that line. So we watched this with my brother-in-law and sister. So we watched this with our Megan's parents, and we watched it with our brother-in-law and sister-in-law. And when that line came out, my brother-in-law basically screamed just like Tom Hardy did. Like he laughed he almost fell out of the couch. It was
pitch perfect.
Yeah, pitch perfect. I mean, and that's. This is going to sound weird, but that's kind of a ballsy thing to say in that, like, just that line. But it works so well. I think a lot of people could complain about it. Oh, that's an antiquated saying. But
I was watching it with my 10-year-old son, and I was like, now I have to explain what this word means, like why that. And my son said, did you just call him a wussy? I was like, yes, yes, he did. Just called him a wussy.
One other thing that I really like about this movie, and I don't know if we've talked about this in the past. Maybe we did at the Comic-Con. I don't remember, but I've gone off on it a lot. And I'm really tired of CGI blobs fighting each other in films. So Man of Steel. I love Wonder Woman. It's one of my favorite superhero films, but the end CGI. Then you have the Iron Man at the end of Iron Man or Iron Man 2 or Iron Man 3. I get very tired of CGI fistfights. But this movie, since Venom is a blob, it's a glob of goo. What did they call it? There's a very funny thing that they called it.
Oh, that was in the Atlantic.
Yeah, so a grumpy, goopy little extraterrestrial. That's what they called it. Yeah, isn't that perfect?
So good.
And so I started reading about this, and these people looked at, like the VFX people, they looked at slime molds, jellyfish, time-lapse photography of amoebas. They looked at eels. What?
So I saw a rig up of the cameras, and and there was a CNET interview with Paul Franklin. You mentioned him earlier, the VFX supervisor. He had at least four 5D Mark IV cameras positioned around the set, and they would take photos of the way Tom Hardy moved, just still shots, to be able to best track onto him because it was going to be such a complex visual rendering.
Wow. I mean, just that. I love the final fight between Riot
Yeah.
and Venom. I love the CGI gags. I loved when he does a mace with his hands or a knife, and Venom's like, "Told you, we have no chance." There's the funny bits, and they established Venom as the underdog, and that's what was really hard for them to do. Like, we have to make Venom the underdog in this, so they went out of their way to make the other creature really kind of like much bigger, primal, silver, like a different.
Well, he's the leader.
Yeah, but they did something to it that made it look just so much. It was bigger.
Oh, his look is supposed to be gunmetal.
Yeah, gunmetal. Oh, like a T-1000.
Right, and Venom says like we have no chance. It wasn't like you did.
Yep.
He says at hiding behind the shuttle at the end, he's like, "We're gonna fight this guy, but we've got no chance."
Doesn't he say before that, like, he's got shit you've never seen?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, it's, and then Tom Hardy's like, and he's like, I told you. Like,
and I love that immediately makes you like Venom because he's going in outmatched. So it creates this underdog, and you already know that they're losers. And normally I hate CGI blobs, but when they two form together, it makes sense to my brain. It's not two CGI creations punching each other in the face. It's two gloopy, gloppy, grumpy extraterrestrials blending into each other because that's what they are. And that CGI worked for me. Remember
the Ang Lee Hulk where he was fighting the water?
Yeah.
He's just punching in a water?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm on board with you that just give me a throwdown fight. Very visceral, right?
I kind of like the scenes when the symbiotes are separate from the people and they're either like sliding across the floor at them to go get them, or the one where Venom has been separated from Eddie in the MRI area and he looks sad. He's like going all over the glass trying to get to him, figuring out what's happening. He looks like a lost pet. So they have personality, and Paul Franklin even said they went with a more flamboyant and expressive style because of the humor in the movie. So they made the globby goop flamboyant and expressive.
That's awesome.
How do you even do that?
I also
it's genius.
Loved that scene where he was like trying to explain that his heart was atrophying. And so there's the doctor and the girl and the hero and then the voice in the hero's head all having a conversation together. Mm-hmm. Like I thought that was written very, very well, and like I think would be hard to follow in the scene when you were filming it.
Oh, I mean, it must have been a nightmare to film. Like, so Michelle Williams, all these actors, they had an earpiece in Tom Hardy's ear. He would record the dialogue, and on set, they would play that dialogue into his ear, and he would react to it. So Michelle Williams is not hearing anything. She just had to pull her Oscar-winning tricks from her bag and put up with it. And I think I listened to interviews with her, and she said it was thrilling. She's like, I have no idea where he's going. I don't know. He is very instinctual. So she's like, I just had to have fun. She's like, after a certain place, you just have to forget your blocking and forget other things and just go along with this crazy man is doing.
Well, and the director said they pulled off essentially a coup getting her to do this, but she said she wanted to because she likes to do different styles she hasn't done before, and she can add this to her repertoire of acting skills.
She's awesome. She's cool in this movie.
She's way too good.
Do you put that on the resume where you're like, I can do live Shakespeare theater, I can do high intense drama, I can act opposite a silent symbiote in someone's head?
Yeah.
Yes.
Like a very specific acting talent.
I would put it on my LinkedIn.
And also, I really liked that is on my LinkedIn currently. It's a lie.
I would put just that on my LinkedIn.
And I would put car wash owner. looking for investors on mine as well. Yes. But I also like the scene where they separate Venom. Michelle Williams separates Venom from Tom Hardy, and Tom Hardy says, "Oh, but I do like when Venom's like, I can fix it, like trying to convince him." But then Tom Hardy, with the biggest vein I've ever seen bulging from someone's neck, because he's a bulldog, goes, "What happened to we? Like, what happened?"
So sad.
Yeah, and he is sad that he thought Venom he thought they were bonding.